person in the dialogue, and basically it's really, it's a fun dialogue to read, but it's basically an opportunity for him to elucidate that Locke's position is contradictory, because on the one hand you're absolutely convinced there's objects out there, and yet at the same time you can never possibly see them, sense them, etc. And as a result, that leads to skepticism, and skepticism leads to atheism and everything else. I mean, skepticism is going to destroy our confidence in a society. By then, you already know that for a community to exist, you have to have people believing in certain principles. That if they don't all agree on those principles, then you're not going to have a community. The community is not going to function. If it's a democracy especially, where everybody is in contention with one another, unless they all accept certain principles, they're not going to essentially keep the community sound, politically sound. Instead, you end up with such controversy that everything will fall apart. So skepticism is not healthy for the community. What else? Hylas and Philonous. So his relationship with Leibniz. I actually went on ChatGPT even this morning, because I keep looking for what relationships they have, and I asked ChatGPT this question. George Berkeley and Gottfried Leibniz were both influential philosophers. This is ChatGPT's response in 18th century, but there's no direct evidence to suggest that they corresponded with each other through letters or other means. There are spots where it's clear Leibniz is responding to a book that Berkeley writes, and clearly Berkeley's writing, but did they write to one another? They're both aware of one another, and that's pretty much the conclusion that even ChatGPT. Remember, ChatGPT can be wrong, and often is. Still, it was fun. So those are fun. What else? Mind Walk. Let's talk about this. So, I don't think I showed you this video at all. I'm going to go to YouTube for it. But this is a free movie that's on the web. I don't know why it's not very popular, but it's got great 3 actors in it. These two, and you end up with her as well. She's famous. So they end up visiting St. Michael's, which is an island, it's not really even an island. During high tide, it's an island, but during low tide, you can walk there. Does that make sense?
Death is a part of life.
But a lot of people tour it. It's off the coast of Normandy.
And since they believed you would need your bones again on Judgment.
So they tour this burg or cathedral on an island, a little island, and they end up speaking with Sonia Hoffman, who's the other character, and she's a physicist.
Look at this. This thing has been functioning for hundreds of years. Since before the beginning of modern times.
Yeah, but this is different from the kind of time you were talking about before. Sunrise to sunset, habits is habit. Wouldn't you say so? Hello?
The clock did much more than that. It became the model of the cosmos. And then they mistook the model for the real thing. People got the idea that nature was just a giant clock, not a living organism, but a machine.
That's exactly what I've been trying to tell this lunkhead. Exactly, word for word. Maybe you recognize him. Jack Edwards? And you're?
Sonia Hoffman. I think I've heard your name somewhere.
Yeah, maybe in a couple hundred news broadcasts. He was a candidate for the U.S. presidency in the primaries.
I vaguely remember. See, I'm not a voter.
This is fiction.
Americans don't vote either.
I do know who you are.
Me? You know who I am? I doubt it.
You're Thomas Harriman, the poet.
Well, yes, I am, but wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You recognize me, a poet whose latest work sold all 12,000 copies, but you do not recognize this gentleman who was a presidential candidate in America? My God, woman, what's happened to your values? What do you do?
I'm a scientist, and we do occasionally read poetry. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a lot of it these days. I'm on a sort of sabbatical. I'm an ex-physicist, an ex-American resident, an ex-voter.
Ex-wife? This is very upsetting. How do intelligent people like yourself bother to post?
Uncle Jimmy and you politicians make it so hard. The ideas expressed by most of you, right and left, seem to me as antique and mechanical as that old clock.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, if I was to explain that, I'd have to go all the way back to Descartes, if you remember him.
Yeah. To be or not to be?
I think before I am.
Yeah, well, we both went to college.
Well, Descartes
That was funny,
the
by the way.
of the view that sees the world as a clock. A mechanistic view that still dominates most of the world today, and it seems to me, especially you politicians.
Mechanistic.
Is that a real word?
Mechanistic? Mechanical? Mechanics? Yeah. It's a good word.
Mechanistic, as if nature functions like a clock. You take it apart, reduce it to a number of small, simple pieces, you can understand, analyze them, put them all back together again, and then understand the whole.
Isn't that what's known as scientific thinking, Miss Hoffman? Really? What you call the mechanistic view, isn't that what the scientific method's all about?
Okay?
Well, I don't think so, but I'd like to kind of hear from the physicist.
All right, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Well, you're right in a way, Mr.
Jack. Call me Jack.
Okay, Jack, you are right in a sense. But I wasn't always so, not before Descartes. When he introduced such thinking, it amounted to a revolutionary breakthrough in the church. He said, I don't need a pope to tell me how the world functions, I can find that out for myself. Because to me, the world is just a machine. And then he became fascinated with clockworks and made a clock into a central metaphor. He said, I consider the human body as nothing but a machine. A healthy man is like a well-made clock. A sick man is like an ill-made clock.
Well, the metaphor seems a little clumsy now, but it works, didn't it?
Yes, so successfully that scientists came to believe that all living things, plants, animals, us, are nothing but machines. And that's us. It carried over into everything, arts, politics.
I don't know, it seems to me that most people don't even remember who Descartes was. I'm sorry, I guess I just don't follow you. But I'd like to. You could just break it down into 30-second media bites, that's more what it used to. Very funny. All right, what is it that I don't recognize? What's so bad about Descartes?
There's nothing bad about Descartes. In fact, I think Descartes is wonderful. He was a godsend to the 17th century. But times have changed since then. We need a new way of understanding life. For example, slums has been replaced by a tiny quartz crystal. These magnificent hand forged wheels turned into a microchip the size of my thumbnail. far modern science has led mechanistic thinking behind. Two politicians who seem to have that clockwork still ticking in there.
Keep on going, Sonia, don't stop. Who knows, you may just have that vital piece of information that we Pauls, being all as stupid as we are, missing out on a whole lot.
There you go, thinking in terms of pieces.
All pieces are all we get of the picture, only fragments. Come on. So I was ready to sleep through Mr. Giddis's physics class. That little model he made out of Tinker Toys with sticks and balls, that was on, right?
Right, wrong. Yeah, it's a lousy visualization, but then no one did it any better.
The doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as it is, and what do you like?
So the whole movie is just the three of them having a conversation on this little island. I don't know why it didn't become more popular. Nobody dies, and so on. No lightsabers.
So Sonia, life's a bunch of probability patterns, aren't they?
Probability patterns of what?
Of interconnections. Well, what I'm trying to say is that these probabilities are not probabilities of things, but probabilities of interconnections.
See, Jack, that's what she was trying to tell you.
See, we tend to think of subatomic particles as some kind of small billiard balls or small grains of sand. But for physicists, a particle has no independent existence. A particle is essentially a set of relations that reach outward to connect with other things.
What are those other things, please?
They are interconnections of yet other things, which also turn out to be interconnections, and so on and so on. You see, in atomic physics, we never end up with any things at all. The essential nature of matter lies not in objects, but in interconnections.
Everybody knows the chord is the third, the most basic of harmonies. Carries with it a very distinctive feeling, no? And yet, its individual notes carry none. Therefore, the essence of the chord lies in
relationships.
and the relationship between time and pitch makes melody. Relationships make music.
Relationships make matter,
Music of the spheres.
as Kepler said.
And shape will be formed.
And what
So, cool movie. It's based on the book The Turning Point by Friedrich Capra, if you've ever heard of him. Friedrich Capra. And in fact, it was his son, I don't remember what his name was other than Capra, who was the director of the movie. But so, that's out there, it's for free. It's a fun hour and a half if you're interested. Okay, so next class we'll be moving on to David Hume, who is the skeptic. So the fear that Berkeley had of skepticism coming certainly comes. And David Hume is that philosopher and considered to be really one of the more important ones. So we'll look at him next class. What to read? Everything David Hume wrote, as far as I know, at least that was published, is online on a beautiful David Hume website in Britain. You could just search for his documents and look at some of the things. He has an autobiography of his life, which is short, very readable. That would probably be a good text to read. But the major books from David Hume are his treatise, Treatise of Human Nature. So you might have a look at that. It's all on the web. He's a very good writer. So of all the ones we've been looking at, he's of course the most modern. He died in 1776, to give you an interesting